Well, welcome back to Agenda 21 Radio, and I'm here with Scott Cahill, and we've just gotten off the dam out at Oroville after extensive afternoon mostly on the dam, and we're going to tell you a little bit about what we saw. And Scott, being one of the nation's top experts in dam technology, had an opportunity to actually go up on the dam and walk a little bit on the dam, so we're going to be talking about that as well. But Scott, first of all, you know, you've got a huge resume, and on our website, or actually on the YouTube channel, you can see Scott's resume. It's right there. Just click on it and you can read all the things that he's been into. So we're not talking to somebody who's just, you know, turns on the water and looks at a dam and there it goes. This is somebody who's been inside of dams, up and around dams, understands them thoroughly for how many years now?
25, I guess.
20.
Just dams.
Risking life and limb. I've seen some of your pictures in the magazines. It's pretty amazing. So one of the nation's leading experts in dams and dam technology and dam safety is right here next to me. And we had opportunity, like I said, to be up on the dam, and you've seen some of the pictures, and we're going to be putting out a few more for you. But Scott, your thoughts on the dam as you've seen it today?
Well, it's pretty much like we discussed it. There are two major concerns, two major failure modes. Everyone seems to agree on that. They are the primary and the emergency spillways. Secondarily to that, there's some other things going on you and I've talked about. There's the potential piping in the left groin of the dam with the saturated section of the face of the dam. And that is an issue potentially. The biggest thing about that, I think, is not the potential for failure, but the fact that it's gone on for a decade, unrepaired. And I think it kind of exemplifies the situation with the maintenance of this dam, where the dam owner is also the dam regulator, watching themselves. And I don't believe it's served the people of this valley very well. I think universally everyone would have to agree that the dam's in poor maintenance. It's an absolutely major dam in every way. It's the tallest dam in the United States at 770 feet. It certainly produces a huge liability, and you and I have discussed that many times on the radio and elsewhere, that if this thing were to fail, the ramifications of that would go on for decades.
Well, one of the things I notice, and it's really the lack of maintenance over time that's led us to this position right now. But you know, you're not talking about just one system of the dam itself. You're talking about multiple systems that have failed and are in failure mode, actually. You're talking about the emergency spillway, which was arrested only by dropping the amount of water, you know, increasing the amount of water flow over the spillway at that on February 12th. But also you have the main spillway, which over years of neglect is really in failure mode right now as we speak.
Exactly.
And it's still being used. It has to be used. It's a problem. And the other part, a couple people might not understand, but the dam actually has a drain in it. It has a drain.
It should have. By law, it should have a bottom drain, and that has been unoperational, I believe, since the dam was constructed. Something happened, and I believe that, I don't know exactly what the situation is.
So three ways in which you, right there, can port and get water off the dam or out of the dam. Plus also the Hyatt power plant is very problematic.
Right.
So really you have at least three of the four systems for draining the dam that are really closed off for the most part, or in danger.
That's the way a failure occurs. It's never just one thing. It is always
multiples.
You have a failure, and then that rolls into a secondary and a trinary failure, and this thing keeps rolling, and it happens. In this situation, the primary spillway failed, or we never would know, even still, that the emergency spillway has some very serious issues and is effectively unusable. So the primary spillway failed. We actuated the OG weir of the emergency spillway, which is an uncontrolled release. It was totally appropriate, but it was recognized very quickly that this thing was in a severe and fast
failure
failure mode. And then wisely, DWR did the only thing left to them at that point, which was to go ahead and actuate the partially failed primary spillway, and we averted disaster by just a tiny bit.
Yeah.
And that's very, very frightening. So now we've learned our lesson, or have we?
Well, I guess the question is it seems to me that we are actually still in multiple failure mode.
Absolutely. This thing is not over, and it won't be over. If you'll have me, you and I will be talking about this this time next year.
Right.
And hopefully by this time next year, I'll be able to have a happier face than what I have right now. Mm-hmm. Right now, an event could occur very easily that would fail this dam, and that's the reality of it. And there's always, for some reason, in these kinds of very serious situations, there are people in control that for some reason believe that it is their job to not concern people. And there are times and situations which should concern people. And this is one of those. This is a serious consideration, not only for the people in the shadow of the dam, but the whole nation. Yeah. This is serious, and it needs to be addressed. I hope that we learned from this, and I hope that we're going to go forward and things are going to get better. But honestly, I'm not sure I'm convinced of that from what I've seen.
One of the things that's really a big concern, and I was telling you about this before you showed up at the dam, and then we got out of the car at the dam, and there we looked right at that big green spot in the front of the dam, and quite frankly, my breath was kind of taken away because I'd seen it 2 weeks earlier, and it's just much bigger, much greener, much lusher. That's a concern, and that's just that green spot is located right there by the Hyatt power plant, just a little bit above it on the left growing. How much of a concern? Now, you actually went out there and walked on that area. How much of a concern? That's real water coming out of there.
It is. I think it's a port that's coming through the indigenous soil of the abutment and manifesting up into the dam. And I'm not very concerned about that. And the reason I'm not is because I'm so concerned about the other things.
Right.
Now, normally if I walked on the dam and that was there, I'd look at it and I'd say what the reports have said for 10 years. I'd say, hey guys, you got a serious issue here, address it.
But because you have multiple things.
Right. Compared to a failing emergency spillway and a failed primary spillway, that's small change. I mean, the probability of a failure evolving from that at this point are slight in comparison to the probabilities of failure from the spillway.
If these things are continue to be stressed and pressed, the multiple failures that we've experienced now could lead to something very catastrophic at this point.
Any one of the failure modes, of which I count for, and other people may have different thoughts, but my possibilities of failure modes evolving are the primary spillway, the emergency spillway, a rotation of the stilling pond from backup from an actuation of the emergency spillway, causing a scour to the lower face of the dam embankment itself, and the groin that's hydrated. And I think probably the liability assumed by those are in that order.
Right, right. Well, hang on, we'll be right back.
Yeah. Thanks again, guys.
All right, we're back here after a short break with Scott Cahill, and we're talking about the failure modes that are going on right now at the Oroville Dam, and this is a big concern because, you know, we have multiple things that are failing, not really truly arrested. They're still in failure mode, and the probability of the dam going into a full failure mode is very, very high when you have multiple failures, obviously. And now we've got this big green spot that seems to be getting bigger. Now Scott's kind of allayed our fears a little bit for that. But there's other issues going on, and one of the big issues is they're using dynamite to actually, or explosives, I guess it's not dynamite, to actually clear certain portions around the spillway, which seems to me to be very problematic, and you really have to question why they might be wanting to use, you know, explosives right now at this point in time. Scott, your thought on that?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised to hear that also. Normally, you would not induce vibration in a dam with the issues that we have with those two spillways.
Right.
And I think that, you know, splitting rock and other things would seem to be a more reasonable methodology to employ than a blasting operation on a dam with a pool established that has a spillway that's half failed. But you know, I'm sitting here. It's hard for me to judge from here. I know that in the past, in situations without this liability, responsible dam owners have absolutely forbade me. And my background, so everybody understands, I'm a contractor. I actually do the diving work and actually do the work on the dams, and that is my thing. I'm not an engineer per se. I've owned an engineering company called Dam Safety Engineering that did just dams for a short period, and I understand a lot about the engineering of dams. But I'm not an engineer. That's not what I do. I'm a builder. I'm a contractor. So I look at things as a builder, and it is a bit of a different visibility. So that might be part of the disparity between my methodology of thinking and some of the engineers. I don't think that anyone would feel it was a good idea. There may be reasons for it, but it certainly concerns me that we're potentially exacerbating the already sensitive situation with the principal spillway in particular.
Well, you know, to me, and I don't know, I'm not an explosive expert, but it just seems to me that when you blow something up, there's vibrations.
Yeah.
It doesn't, I mean, is there some miracle explosive out there that eliminates vibrations?
There is
since you're using the explosive to create the vibration to move the soil.
I understand, and it's pretty normal now when you use explosives in the ground, and I did hold my explosives license for a period of time. I don't anymore. But you monitor with seismic stations, you monitor this vibration so that you can record it and know what it is. So at least you have the ability to know what was induced into the ground. That said, still, there's no way to fracture rock without creating a seismic type of a pressure wave through the structure. So, you know, I don't know. I don't want to question people who are trying to do the right thing, but it seems awfully odd to me. It seems like the most extreme methodology to employ. I understand why they're doing it from what I understand. It's because of these angles of repose of the areas that have scoured out. They're concerned about working down in those areas, and so their thought is to blast that off to get an angle of repose where men won't be threatened by that overhang. But you know, I think it might be more appropriate to angularly drill and split that rock. But that's me sitting here in a nice, pleasant parking lot.
Well, anyway, Scott, thank you very much for being with us and going out to the dam and checking it out and all that stuff. And your expertise is very much wanted around here. And we really appreciate you coming from Ohio to see us.
I love the people of this area, and I've really enjoyed spending the time with you, dear friend.
Awesome.
It's been a good trip.
Thanks a lot. We'll be right back with Agenda 21 Radio.